of land by the municipality respecting the 10th Street Bridge and provided direction to staff. So here we are starting the main meeting, calling for additional business. Staff, any other councillors? Councillor Thomas.
Yes, Your Worship, I have one item tonight on some new exhibition openings at the Tom Thompson Memorial Art Gallery this coming Friday night.
Anyone else? Councillor, Deputy Mayor O'Leary.
Thank you, Your Worship. New Year's Eve party.
I'll have one item with regard to police service auxiliary accomplishments and recruiting. Number 5, disclosure of pecuniary interest and the general nature thereof. Go ahead.
Thank you, Your Worship. I declared a pecuniary interest in regards to item 4A within the closed session, due to my employment. Sorry.
Thank you. On to number 6, confirmation of the council minutes. Councillor Kepke.
Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Hamley, that the minutes of the regular council meeting held on December 17 as printed be adopted.
All in favor? That is carried. 6B.
Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Hamley, that the minutes of the closed session of council held on December 17, 2018 as printed be adopted.
All in favor? Those are carried. Thank you. Number 7.
Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Hamley, that the City Council now move into Committee of the Whole to consider public meetings, deputations, and presentations, public question period, matters arising from correspondence, reports of City staff, consent agenda, committee minutes, matters proposed, motions for which notice was previously given, and additional business.
All in favor? That is carried, so we're now in Committee of the Whole. At number 8 on our agenda, we have no public meetings. We have no deputations, public question period. There's no one here to ask any questions. We're down to number 11 already on the agenda, which is correspondence received, which direction of council is required. Councillor Dodd.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'd ask that we move this to our Operations Committee. This is the first of many requests that we do receive regarding extending our water services to our surrounding municipalities. And I think this just might be a good one to have back at committee, just so for a refresher and discussion with new council members as well.
Some further discussion? Councillor O'Leary, Deputy Mayor O'Leary.
I just wanted to say I will support the motion, but pretty solid in my thoughts on this before we go any further. I think just out of respect for the 3 new councillors, it's good that we go back and give them a chance to get up to speed.
Thanks. Any other discussion? Call the question. All in favor? That is carried, so that sends that to Operations Committee. Number 12, reports from city staff. 12A is report from Deputy Clerk with regard to public appointments to boards and committees.
Through you, Your Worship, each year City Council considers public appointments to boards and committees based on vacancies and terms of service that are expiring. Staff advertised the public board and committee vacancies for 2019 through social media, a media release, and an advertisement in the Owen Sound Sun-Times. The time period for applications was a little over a month, and the deadline was December 7, 2018. Following the December 17th housekeeping report, as well as the closed session of council meeting on December 17th, where council provided direction on public appointments, following review of the public applications that did come in, staff have prepared tonight's report for recommendations on filling the public vacancies on boards and committees with appointments to begin February 1st, 2019. While the list of appointments can be found in Schedule A to the report, there are several special circumstances that must also be approved. First, council will need to approve an additional public member for the Economic Development and Tourism Advisory Committee. Second, of all applicants, Bill King will require a waiving of the board and committee bylaw sunset clause by a 2/3 vote, as this appointment will take him over 6 consecutive years on the Operations Committee. Third, both Peter Lemon and Rick Holland require a waiving of the board and committee bylaw multiple committee clause, as both have been recommended to 2 different boards or committees respectively. And lastly, staff requests that as part of the new board and committee bylaw that will be brought forward at the next council meeting, the language is clarified to properly exempt all external boards from the sunset clause. The recommendation in the staff report contains all of these sub-recommendations as I've laid out, along with a request for direction that staff bring forward a bylaw at the next council meeting to appoint the public members listed in Schedule A. With that, Your Worship, we'd be happy to answer any questions council may have.
Councilors, questions? Motions? Councilor Gregg?
Thanks, Mayor. I have no suggestions, no changes, so I'd move the recommendations, the motion as it is.
Okay, so to that, any questions? Seeing none, all in favor? That is carried. Thank you. I think we're back to you for the next report.
Through you, Your Worship, annually in accordance with policy number CRS C37 attached to this report, City Council makes their own selections for boards and committees in which they would like to sit for the year, in this case effective February 1st, 2019. The staff report contains a second attachment which shows the vacancies for councillors to choose from, although I would note that we have added the Owen Sound Municipal Nonprofit Housing Corporation and Owen Sound Housing Company boards as they were accidentally omitted at the time of agenda publishing. The process in general will start with councillors choosing a selection number from the magical envelope that I have here. This will determine the order in which selections are made. It will go from 1 to 8, then 8 on the way back down to 1, and so on until all selections have been made. Staff will add the choices on the screen behind me as we go. It's a spreadsheet format, so once a particular board and committee has reached its maximum amount of councillors, the entire row will turn red, thus indicating it can't take any more. Councillors do have a limited time after tonight's meeting to make changes amongst themselves should there be any scheduling conflicts with selections that have been made tonight. I simply need to be notified of the changes no later than 4:30 p.m. on January 11, 2019, which is this Friday. Once the process of selection is complete, staff require a motion from council to bring forward a bylaw to the next council meeting to appoint council members to serve on boards and committees with terms effective February 1st, 2019. With that, Your Worship, unless there are questions from council, I will start the selection process.
Does anyone have any questions? Seeing none, just remember, no kicking, no punching, no biting, no spitting. You can't buy off anyone else with money.
I would say also, Your Worship, there are hard copies of sort of the grid that you'll see on the screen behind so that councillors can follow along if they'd like to on their own. I've also placed as well on many of the desks an actual listing for the order if you'd like to keep track of that, just so you can as well keep track as we go through.
Councillor Dodd has pulled number 1, and based on election results, Councillor Thomas is must be getting number 2, is he? Number 5. Okay, I'll get you to slowly go through. Number 1 was Councillor Dodd. And who has number 2? Councillor Tamming. Who has number 3? Councillor Gregg. Who has number 4? Kepke, number 5, Councillor Thomas, number 9, oh sorry, that's upside down, number 6, Deputy Mayor O'Leary, number 7, Councillor Hamley. Oh, okay. Yeah, you get to go back to back. So Councillor Merton got number 8.
So as long as they last to 8, but then...
So I'll hand it back over to you, I think. Or do you want me to do it? Okay. So, number 1, Councillor Dodd. First pick is?
My number 1 overall pick would be Community Services.
Number 2, Councillor Tamming. Okay. And number 3, Councillor Gregg.
Operations?
Okay. Number 4, Councillor Kepke.
Police Services.
Number 5, Councillor Thomas.
Library Board.
And number 6, Deputy Mayor O'Leary.
Community Services.
Number 7, Councillor Hamley.
Corporate Services.
Okay. Number 8, Councillor Merton. Accessibility. Okay, we're going back to Councillor Merton to go back the other way. Community Services. Councillor Hamley.
Operations.
Deputy Mayor O'Leary.
Operations.
Councillor Thomas.
Tom.
Councillor Kepke.
Operations.
Okay. Councillor Gregg.
Grace Howell.
Grace Sobel. Okay. Councillor Tamming. Okay. Councillor Dodd.
Economic Development.
Good. You ready? Back to you.
Corporate Services.
Okay. Councillor Tamming. Corporate Services. Okay. Councillor Gregg.
I'll do corporate if there's still one there.
Yep.
Corporate.
Okay. Councillor Kepke.
Community Services.
Okay. Councillor Thomas.
Economic Development.
Am I going too quick? Councillor Thomas was Economic Development. And did you get Councillor Kepke before that? Got up to there? So Deputy Mayor O'Leary is next.
DIA.
Councillor Hamley.
Economic Development.
Councillor Merton. No, it might be gone. Corporate Services. It's done too. If you look up on the screen, anything that's red is done already.
Gone?
Gone.
All right, what's left?
Sound Community Fund. Okay. Help me out. Was that your last one in that round? So I'm going right back to you for the next one, correct? Yes.
So if I'm reading this correctly, there's the OSHC, DIA, so that's what the other ones. I'll do the OSH.
Sorry, which one? Housing? Okay. Councillor Hamley?
Festival of Northern Lights.
Deputy Mayor O'Leary? He's already on that. So accessibility is the only other one that I see up there that doesn't have a... Yep. Okay. Councillor Thomas. Looks like you've got a choice of DIA or DIA.
Well, I think then DIA.
Perfect. Go ahead.
Through your worship, I can send this out tomorrow just so you can see for yourselves what selections have been made.
So if anyone wants to trade, they have until when again? Friday at 4:30 to let Curtis know if you trade off, you see something that you'd rather have and you think you can trade. Go ahead.
Through your worship, I have a question, an administration question. When you provide us the list and tell us what this looks like for us, do you also give us a list of the current committee members and the ones that will become part of the committee as well for information?
Through your worship, it'll all be in the board and committee bylaw, so it'll show everybody that's on that committee.
Thank you.
You will see that.
I don't have my screen opened. Is there a, we need a motion to bring it forward. Deputy Mayor,
So moved.
Larry, not right. All in favor? That is carried. So we're down to 12C, which is the alternative member of County Council.
Through your worship, the Municipal Act provides authority to a municipality to appoint an alternate member to the upper tier council to act in place of a person who is unable to attend a meeting of the upper tier council for any reason. Only one alternate can be appointed, and it is for the term of council. Council has decided to make this appointment through a nomination process as outlined in the policy attached to the report. The report is being brought forward to initiate the process to appoint the alternate member of County Council. Following the nomination process, a resolution will be required to direct staff to bring forward a bylaw to appoint the nominee.
So at this point, we are, somebody would be moving the recommendation, and we would be nominating somebody now. So nomination first, recommendation second. Good. Deputy Mayor O'Leary.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'll nominate Councillor Thomas.
And others? Councillor Dodd?
Thank you, Your Worship. I know Councillor Kepke would also like to be nominated.
So you're nominating. Others? Seeing no others, so then I'm calling for a vote. Oh, that might be important. Councillor Thomas, would you accept that nomination?
Yes, I will.
And Councillor Kepke?
Yes, I would, given there are not many females on Grey County Council, and they need all the support they can get. The best woman win.
3, 4. So it's a show of hands. Majority. So I'm calling one name and counting votes and calling the next name. Okay. So Councillor Thomas was nominated first. I'll call the name of Councillor Thomas. All in favor? 1, 2, 3, 4. Why is Ann Finley Stewart laughing at me at the back of the room? Tough position to be put in. So I've got to vote or not vote, and I'm going to make it easy. I'm going to vote yes for Councillor Thomas then, and I don't know. So then that's 5. So then there's no use. Thanks, everybody. Okay, now we need a recommendation. Somebody want to move the recommendation? Anybody? Anybody? Councillor Dodd is moving the recommendation, which includes appointing Councillor Thomas as the alternative member of County Council.
Correct.
All in favor? That's carried. So we're down to 12D. Mr. Kafalis is presenting with regard to overnight parking, municipal lot.
Thank you, Your Worship. With the development of the old church located at 702 2nd Avenue East, a need for parking was created. The developer made a request for overnight parking in close proximity of their building. Possibilities included municipal lots 8 and 9. Given that there are only 6 units in a newly renovated building, it was determined that Lot 9 should be sufficient to accommodate the needs of the residents, especially given that there hasn't been a demand for overnight parking in Lot 9. As indicated in the report, parking will alternate between the north and south side dependent on the day of the week. Should we find that demand for overnight parking increases to a point where Lot 9 can no longer accommodate the demand, administration will be coming forward with a request to expand overnight parking into Lot 8.
Okay, questions? Seeing none, recommendation is there. Somebody wants to move it? Councillor Gregg?
I move the recommendation. I see it routinely through the week that it's rarely, if I totally agree with the report, so I'll move the recommendation.
Thank you. All in favor? That is carried. 12E, I think it was report from Mr. Kafalis again.
Thank you, Worship. The staff report in question is seeking council approval to execute the necessary documents to purchase 95 to 99 10th Street East, a property that is required to allow the city to move forward with the replacement of the 10th Street Bridge.
Discussion, questions, motions? Deputy Mayor O'Leary.
I'll move the recommendation.
All in favor? That is carried. Number 12F, I think, is probably Ms. Allen.
Thank you, Worship. The city currently has life insurance policies with Sun Life Financial for all full-time permanent employees and eligible retirees. The policy is 2 times the employee's salary up to a maximum of $250,000. The current policy covers employees and eligible retirees up to the age 65. The city manager has 1.5 years remaining on his contract, and this report is seeking direction to amend the city manager's contract to continue to pay life insurance until the end of that term.
Discussion, questions, motions? Councillor Thomas.
I move the recommendation.
All in favor? That is carried. Consent agenda. Ms. Bloomfield.
Through your worship, on the consent agenda this evening is a report respecting the Rural Economic Development Funding Amendment for RU Most Phase 2. There is a report respecting the coldest night of the year walk, minutes for receipt from the police board, and several businesses received their final approval, including the Owen Sound Sweet Shop at 1350 16th Street East, Stop and Smell the Roses at 640 10th Street West, Bliss Studio at 270 9th Street East, Hannah Couture Cleaning, a home occupation at 638 3rd Ave East, Heather's Chair, a home occupation at 1631 8th Ave East. And lastly, there is correspondence presented for the information of council. A full listing is available at 13E.
Councillor Kepke, you'll have the list, I think, won't you?
I have the motion, Your Worship.
Yeah.
That's moved by myself that City Council receive items 13A to E on the consent agenda dated January 7th, 2019, and further that the recommendations contained in items 13A and 13B be approved.
Discussion on that? All in favor? That is carried. I'm going to go down to 13C. Deputy Mayor O'Leary, Owen Sound Police Services.
Thank you, Worship. Nothing really jumps out there other than the year-end collision overview for 2018. I just wanted to rhyme off a couple of things here. There's 401 collisions. That was up until the end of September. All of these stats were till 30th of September. That number is the same as last year. There's 26 collisions involving injury. There's 55 last year, so that's down quite a bit. There's no fatal collisions. There's 9 collisions with pedestrians, 0 collisions with cyclists, 5 the year before, so that's a good stat. This is a bad one. 25 impaired charges. Hasn't been that high since 2009. The most collisions occur on a Friday, and the least number of collisions on a Sunday. Most collisions occur between 11 a.m. and 1 p.m. And this is the shocker for me. Overwhelming number of collisions happen during the day or during dry conditions, which is kind of odd with all the bad weather we get. Thanks, Your Worship. That's all
Has the police board done anything else recently that you want to
Well,
cover?
those minutes aren't in front of us, but we did hire a new chief, Craig Ambrose, and kind of excited about that. It was kind of a long process, and really good guy, and someone that was going to come here to retire. He married a girl from this area, and so he's just going to come a little bit earlier than retirement, and really looking forward to him being here.
Thanks. Any questions for Councillor, for Deputy Mayor O'Leary with regard to the minutes? Seeing none. So we're down to 14 already, committee minutes with recommendations for approval, starting with economic development. Councillor Dodd.
Thank you, Worship. This was our volunteer appreciation meeting. So first off, I'd just like to recognize our volunteers who sit on the Economic Development and Tourism Advisory Committee. Without these individuals being part, we wouldn't have such a diverse group of individuals being able to give direction towards some of our policies. So Marianne Alton, Mike Camello, James McGregor, and Derek Smith, I thank you all for your participation and your volunteering of being on economic development. So we had a pretty busy meeting because this was basically a big review, a lot from our community development and marketing manager. So the first thing I wanted to touch base on was our tourism, which was our year in review. The main three functions of tourism is usually product development, marketing and promotion, and our visitor services. Through our product development highlights of 2018, those included Save Our Own Sound, the Corkscrew City Tour, our Salmon Celebration, and the newly added cycling option that tourism staff had worked with Parks and Open Spaces staff to be able to get some bike rentals down at the Visitor Center. Marketing and promotion highlights, we increased our reach and following on social media. We do a distribution of a weekly e-blast to about 1,800 recipients outlining some key upcoming events. We updated some print brochures of our restaurant guides, city map and attractions, Harrison Park, Salmon Tour, and our Corkscrew City Tour. Through our visitor services, we did some new interior and exterior renovations, both through paint, new blinds, some exterior signage. So if you will notice on the east side of that building, now it's gone back to the old historical Owen Sound sign where it would have originally been when you were coming through on the train. It's just a small little piece, but I think it adds a little bit extra flair, makes you feel like it's back to what it was when it was active. The Visitor Center welcomed over 6,500 people in 2018, and overall we actually had a net revenue of about $790, opposed to what was anticipated budget was actually a net expense of $3,000. So I thought that was pretty good news. We're working on, staff are currently working on work plans for the 2019 year. We'll continue working on the Corkscrew City Tour. That is currently looking through funding sources through RTO7. And another big plan for what we're hoping to do through the tourism side of things is to establish Owen Sound as more of a base camp for tourists. I think this is one big thing that we always kind of recognize, that when people come to visit, they don't just visit Owen Sound, they don't just visit Thornbury or Tobermory. If we can start leveraging with our accommodations, shopping, and some other cultural assets, we can really start picking up on a lot of more tourism activity. We got an update from about Tenneco. As we're all aware, Tenneco will be closing its doors in 2020. We got an update basically announcing that the Manager of Community Development and Marketing, with the cooperation of Grey County's Interim Manager of Economic Development, has been working closely with the Ministry of Economic Development, Job Creation and Trades, Ministry of Training, Colleges and Universities, OMAFRA, the 4 County Labor Market Planning Board, YMCA Employment Services, and Tenneco's Human Resources Department. Bi-weekly conference call has been set up to keep all stakeholders updated about any changes that may occur. Also, what's going on, Grey County is hosting a regional job fair at the Bayshore on February 21st from 2 to 7 p.m., which will be a good way to kind of show that we do know we have a lot of employers in the city who are looking for workers, so this is something that will kind of help with that as well. The one thing that was brought out there, which I thought was quite important, was the Ministry of Economic Development, the Provincial Ministry of Economic Development offers a Communities in Transition program, which offers assistance to communities who experience plant closures, job losses, and other restructuring. So the program is intended to be used to develop longer-term studies and or strategies that would not otherwise be funded under provincial programs. So there are some programs that our staff are working with some other of our partnering agents to try to make sure that we can find something for all of those employees who may be losing their employment with Tenneco. We got an update about the Argue the Most Phase 2. As you all know, Argue the Most Phase 1 was a complete success. We have multiple individuals who have moved here, both that were through the program and weren't through the program. But the main message is that this is actually drawing a lot of positive attention, both to Owen Sound and just the program as a whole. The Argue the Most website received about 3,900 sessions and about 15,000 page views, made over by 3,600 users between August 1st and November 30th, which is pretty crazy to think that there's that many people taking part of that that organization. A lot of this top traffic is coming from Toronto, Hamilton, London, and Mississauga. There were 18 applicants to the program in 2018. 8 of those 18 applicants already had existing businesses, while the other 10 were looking at starting their own business. 4 visits happened this year, which is fantastic. Obviously, as we all know, it's great to have individuals come up and take a view of the city, be toured around the community. We also know that real life still exists, where it's not just a drop of a hat that someone can sell their home, change their job, and move up to the area. It is a long-term process, and just seeing that this many people are interested in coming up to Owen Sound and recognizing its strengths is extremely exciting. We had a report regarding the beautification of downtown storefronts. This has been obviously a controversial issue for most of my time on council. We have not a lot, but we have a number of vacant storefronts in the downtown core, and we've always had the ideas of doing some sort of beautification to the storefront windows, not only to beautify our downtown core, but also to help entice our local community, to make sure that everyone feels safe and welcome, and that it also kind of would be able to collaborate with some of our local galleries and other organizations to kind of showcase some of their work as well. So a little more of a networking idea. We sent this all out to all the vacant storefront owners in the downtown core, and we received 1 response to the letter, which was rather disappointing. But we have requested that another invitation go back out to our vacant storefront building owners, and just to give them a little bit more of a time frame, recognizing the fact maybe they just put it on their desk and didn't think about it. We'll give them one more opportunity to hopefully become a part of this program, because we do have galleries. Well, obviously we have 5 or 6 galleries, 7 galleries in our downtown core, and it'd be a great way for not only for the storefront to be beautified, but also a good way to showcase some of the local art that we have in our community. The Manager of Community Development and Marketing also presented the Moving Forward video series. Those have been 2 videos that have been shot. We have both seen both of them. The videos of launch today include one that focuses on young entrepreneurs and one about the snapshot of the downtown. And there is a 3rd video coming on the manufacturing and skills training. First, for that young entrepreneurs, that shows young people can be successful entrepreneurs in Owen Sound, and that there are programs both for the mentoring type opportunities that will help foster their growth. That video reached 21,000 people on social media and about 16,000 views. The video about the downtown carries over the conversation regarding why people have moved here, about the Argue the Most campaign. When I was at the Young Professionals Network, one individual had moved up from Brooklyn, New York, and he said that the reason they moved up here because they can feel that Owen Sound's on a cusp of something great. So they moved up from Brooklyn, New York, already run a business up in the industrial park, and I thought that was actually a really interesting comment to hear that someone else as an outsider could feel that Owen Sound is on the cusp of something great. That video reached 41,000 people on social media and had 27,000 views. With that, Your Worship, I would just actually like to recognize that on January 14th in our Grey Bruce This Week flyer package, the new calendars, the 2019 split calendars, will be in there, or I guess they will also be able to be picked up, I believe, at City Hall as well. Yes. All right. So anyone who wants a calendar, look for it in the Grey Bruce This Week flyer pack. Otherwise, it will be here at City Hall for you to pick up, and probably other city facilities.
Go ahead.
Through you, Your Worship, we will get them out probably around January 17th, so we'll certainly be sending out social media when they're available, and we will get them out.
Well, the pictures are quite beautiful pictures that have been submitted by local photographers. So there's a lot of nice natural photos of Owen Sound, so it's a beautiful calendar. Anyways, I would move acceptance and approval of those minutes.
Approving the minutes. Questions? Councillor Merton?
I had the pleasure of sitting in as a fill-in for this committee, one of the first that I had the opportunity to sit in on. And it seems appropriate since we've just selected our committees. There was conversation among the committee members about increasing the frequency of meeting the public members. And there was great enthusiasm for moving forward with direction, goal setting. It would be helpful as a new councillor to know about the committee calendar schedule. Is this solid? Can committees have the flexibility of meeting more often? Because there seemed, and maybe Councillor Dodd could speak to this as well, because you handled it well at the meeting.
It's going to go to Mr. Ritchie.
Thank you, Your Worship. Certainly, we try to stick to the calendar as much as we can for staff, also for council and committee members. We sometimes struggle on some committees to have an agenda that perhaps we feel is the best use of everyone's time coming in on occasion, and in consultation with the chair of some committees, excuse me, we may cancel a committee meeting, but that is done hopefully very rarely, but we very much try to stick to that calendar once it's struck for everyone's benefit.
Go ahead, Councillor Dodd.
Thank you. One thing I would like to address on that as well, knowing that who the members of the new committee for economic development, we do know we have two strong members, public members, that are one is returning, one is going to be a very strong member. And as we have maybe our first meeting, maybe that can be a nice discussion of an open table discussion about how we foresee both how we can implement both the staff plan as well as the expectations of the committee as well, so we can find a middle ground of where we can do that. And if we do find a project that's something that's more hands-on, that committee can be on board for, that's not really taking up too much staff time, maybe at that point we can jump into moving back to our monthly meetings for a certain project. But that would be my understanding, or my perspective anyways.
Thank you.
Okay, others? Councillor? Go ahead. I'm chairing. Go ahead.
Through the chair, Mr. Dodd, or Councillor Dodd, I'm really curious, how many vacant stores are there downtown?
I would have to defer that to the Director of Community Services. We did get, staff did receive a report from the DIA, who had done an inventory of the number of vacant storefronts, but I believe Ms. Coulter.
That is one of our reports that we report on annually to the committee, and I can't remember what it is, but we can get that stat for you.
Do you have a rough idea?
I don't want to give you a number. I'd be wrong. I have a lot of numbers in my head over the course of a year, but Mr. Fisher actually counts the stores. He walks and he counts the vacant stores. He's done that, I'll say, in November. I could be wrong on the date, so we can certainly get that for you, Councillor.
And do we know how many owners of vacant stores there are?
How many, which, sorry?
Same answer. How many owners there are?
Oh, yes. Yeah, we can get all that information for you.
And I was just curious about lines of authority, because it sounds like a beautification project, and I think it's a cool one. Peter Lemon spoke about this years ago, trying to do that while the vacant stores get repurposed or something else, because usually it's a transition that lasts a while, as we all know. But I'm curious, is the DIA, would they not, with their staff, be doing this, or is it kind of an overlap? If you could just speak to that.
So the background on this, has actually been through economic development when prior to me being on council. It was a partnership between the DIA, the Economic Development Committee, and Tom Thompson Art Gallery. So you might be able to remember at that time, Mr. Sub on the corner used to be decorated with some of the art gallery posters. The River Cafe, same thing, used to be advertising for some of the updating concerts. So one thing that was brought back is after when we knew some things kind of went array at the Tom, something that was not being done. So recognizing that in committee, I actually brought that report back into economic development, that we take that back on and work with the DIA as a partner and try to find some of those vacant storefront and the owners, and work with them to see what we can do to, one, either get in short-term leases into those units, so that way they're bringing in an income, or doing something we can do with their front windows, that way, kind of beautify that downtown core. So it is something that the DIA is working in partnership. It's just a little bit of hands everywhere, though. So the DIA at their time, what they were able to offer was their inventory of what they've already done their search for. This was something that Marianne Alton had taken under her wing to kind of make that partnership between the galleries, reach out to the galleries, and we had staff reach out to the building owners and seeing if that way we could kind of, just kind of work everything together and, try to see if we can make a difference there.
Thank you, Councillor Dodd. Again, through the mayor, and I don't want to, but I am puzzled because there's quite a bit of staff employed by the DIA. You have one person responding, which is pathetic. I think we'd agree to that, especially given the need of the downtown to turn itself around. And I'm just wondering why the DIA would not be requested to sort of follow up and make sure that we get responses from landlords and so forth. Maybe there's no answer. I don't know. Just seems to me if more than one entity is in charge, nobody's in charge at some level, Councillor. That's all. Yeah.
I think what we would say is that I think the city staff actually took that under their wing. That's something I think I would praise city staff for doing this, going out of their way and taking that direction, because we weren't getting that level of support from the DIA to make it to do that. So it was one thing that we knew, that we recognized from multiple meetings, that we're seeing that. We know that the downtown revitalization is important for not only the DIA but the city of Owen Sound. So we took that underneath our wing and as a committee to bring that forward and see if we could get any movement on it. So
I thank you for that, because it seems to me this council may be asked to deal with the DIA at some point in the next few weeks. And it strikes me that it's important to know what the DIA has been doing and what they haven't. And so I thank you for that. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Just for a matter of information, Councillor Thomas, when you were chairing the Economic Development Committee approximately 2 years ago, we got red funding. No, somebody else.
We got funding for our downtown revitalization study, Your Worship, which did look at strategies for helping to create some energy in our downtown and move forward, and we did implement quite a number of those findings as we went forward. And we had this very discussion in our very first year on this council in 2014, in my first year. We again had the idea to decorate the storefronts, make things look a little nicer, but you can't force people to participate, and that is part of the problem. Is so many of the landlords in the downtown core are not from Owen Sound and have no real stake in what our downtown looks like or doesn't look like. And it's not an unusual problem, actually, when you start coming to AMO and meetings like that and speak with other municipal councillors. There are many, many downtowns struggling with the very same issues, and we just keep chipping away at it, and I have no doubt at some point we'll come up with the magic bullet that will make it all transform.
So with that, anyone else? I'm going to call the question, which is Councillor Dodd's recommendation for approval of those minutes. All in favor? That is carried. Thank you. 14B, and that's the Operations Committee.
Thank you, Your Worship. Our meeting wasn't nearly as long as that one. We did have our volunteer appreciation night as well, and I did thank the public members at the meeting. I'd like to thank them now as well. Paul Foster, Robert Hope, Bill King, and Graham Jordan. Thanks very much for your contributions to the Operations Committee. Committee discussed a proposed streetlight report in the 1600 and 1700 block of 8th Avenue West, adjacent to the Kinsman Ballpark. The plan is to install one new streetlight and pole on the east side of the 1600 block and 3 new streetlights and poles on the east side of the 1700 block of 8th Avenue West. The cost is $35,000, subject to funding approval in the 2019 budget. Committee made changes to fines regarding snow removal in front of downtown stores. The previous fines were $45 for the first 3 occurrences, then $90 for the next 3, and $135 for the remaining occurrences. The revised cost per invoice is now $123 per occurrence. There will be a warning issued explaining the revision with the first occurrence. The Manager of Public Works presented a committee with a consultant's report regarding screening at the West Side Pumping Station. This pumping station services about 1/4 of the city. This facility is deteriorating. This project is currently on the 10-year budget plan, and staff is making committee aware that this will be coming forward. At this point, the recommendation is to proceed with the structural assessment of the West Side Pumping Station which will include settlement evaluation during 2019 and report the findings back to the Operations Committee. And with that, Your Worship, I'll move approval of those minutes.
Questions for Deputy Mayor O'Leary? Seeing none, all in favor of approval of those minutes? It is carried. Down to number 15 already, matters postponed, which we have none. Motions for which notice was previously given, and there's none. Discussion of additional business. Starting with
Thanks, Your Worship. I just wanted to let the members of council and the public know that on Friday, January the 11th, this week from 7 till 9 p.m., we have a couple of exciting exhibits opening at the Tom. One of them, Salt of the Earth, People of Bruce and Grey Counties, is by Willie Waterton, who many of you will remember as a news photographer of many years with the Sun Times, and quite a talented art photographer, I'll call him as well. The other exhibit is called Snowed In, Selections from the Gallery's Collection, which has been guest curated by Joan Hawksbridge, and I've been in to have a look at it, and it's really spectacular. Also, on Saturday afternoon at 1 o'clock, the gallery is hosting a Tom Talk with Willie Waterton. So if you want to get up close and personal with Willie and maybe get some photography tips, that would be the time and place to do that. Thank you.
Deputy Mayor O'Leary.
You're starting to get it now. Thanks, Your Worship. I just wanted to say I was at the New Year's Eve party at the Rec Center, an event put on in partnership with the city and the Y for our young kids, and they had balloon art, face painting, arts and crafts, dancing, of course skating, and then the big finale at 6:30 with the big balloon drop, which was just hundreds and hundreds of balloons, and it was really well attended and really well put together. So I just wanted to thank Brent Fisher and Carly MacArthur for another great job, and boy, it was a lot of fun for the kids. I know it's for the young kids. It was good for old guys like me too, because I didn't have to wait for midnight. It was actually good. So I'd also like to thank there's 3 sponsors for this event. Harold Elston from Elston Watt Solicitors, Nickel Insurance, and All Things Tea. And again, thanks very much. What a great event.
Did you get a balloon? Didn't fight a kid for a balloon. Thank you. I've got a note here from Owen Sound Police Services Auxiliary Unit, who completed their annual Christmas food drive in Owen Sound just before Christmas. They wish to thank everyone in the city who contributed and helped make it so successful. Zayres, Food Basics, and Metro allowed them on site for 3 consecutive weekends to collect food. They collected a total of 7,470 pounds. Cash donations of $3,636, which is 1,500 pounds more than last year. All of it was donated to the Salvation Army Food Bank to help citizens in the area. Also, Owen Sound Police Services are accepting applications for the volunteer position of Auxiliary Police Constable. So if you're interested in being involved in policing, I know a number of police officers started off getting a taste of policing through the Auxiliary Police Constable program, and I can't remember how many. Do you remember? Yeah. Plus there's many others that just want to be involved in the community, and it's a way of giving back and being involved. There of course are requirements that have to be met. Resumes will be accepted until 12 o'clock noon on Thursday, January 31st, so at noon hour, the last day of the month. But they're holding an information session tomorrow night, Tuesday, January 8th at 7:30 at the Owen Sound Police Services building. So if you're interested and want more information, that's a good place to go. You can send your resume to the attention of Inspector Michael Daze, or if you want more information, look at www.onewordowensoundpolice.com. So owensoundpolice.com, and you can get information there on how to volunteer to be in the auxiliary. And that's all of my information. I've certainly enjoyed the last couple of weeks off having no responsibilities, and Don't take it personally, but I enjoyed not seeing any of you for a couple of weeks. Councillor Kepke, number 18, motion that the Committee of the Whole rise.
I move that the Committee of the Whole rise and report.
All in favor? That is carried. Number 19, motion to adopt.
Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Hamley, that the action taken in Committee of the Whole in considering public meetings, deputations, and presentations, public question period, matters arising from correspondence, reports of city staff, consent agenda, committee minutes, matters postponed, motions for which notice was previously given, and additional business be confirmed by this council.
All in favor? That is carried. Does anyone have any notices of motion that they are bringing tonight? Seeing none. Bylaws, Ms. Bloomfield.
Your Worship, the bylaws listed for approval on tonight's agenda include the confirmatory bylaw, a bylaw to execute a facility use agreement with at-last Forest Schools for the use of Harrison Park, a bylaw to execute an amending agreement with the city manager respecting the provision of life insurance, a bylaw to execute a facade and structural improvement agreement with Old Port City Holdings for property at 299 9th Street East, a bylaw to execute a facade and structural improvement agreement with the Harmony Center for property at 890 4th Ave East, a bylaw to execute a facade and structural improvement agreement with Maureen Martyr for property at 217 8th Street East, a bylaw to execute a facility use agreement with the Ontario Boy Scouts for use of Harrison Park, a bylaw to execute a site plan agreement with 2523054 Ontario Incorporated for property at 297 18th Street East, a bylaw to execute a servicing agreement with 2523054 Ontario Incorporated and others for property at 297 18th Street East, a bylaw to execute the documents necessary to complete the acquisition of property at 95 10th Street East, and lastly, a bylaw to execute an amending agreement with the Minister of Agriculture, Food and Rural Affairs respecting the Rural Economic Development Program.
Good, thank you. Councillor Kepke.
Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Hamley, that bylaw numbers 2019-001, 002, 003, 004, 005, 006, 007, 008, 009, 010, and 011 be passed and enacted.
All in favor? That is carried. So that completes our business of tonight. It is 7:52. Thanks, everyone. We're completed. Thanks.